Yay, Karen Drucker. And the crowd goes mild. You caught that, huh? I used to have this friend, well, he's still a friend. I haven't seen him in a long, long time. He was a recording engineer and producer, and he worked on the 2 records I put out with the Shademakers, and he had a million of those kind of isms, and the crowd goes mild, and hey, leave your middle initial at the door, we'll call you. That was probably my favorite. What's that on the road, ahead? So that was studio time with Blair Kalibaba. Hey, Blair. He was a blast. All right, let me just get everything organized here. Okay. I know I've shared this before, but it's a perfect opportunity to share this again in How to Let God Help You. The classic from Myrtle Fillmore, she begins with, I was thinking about life. Life is everywhere, in man and in worm. Then why does not the life in the worm make a body like a man's, I asked. Then I thought, the worm has not as much sense or intelligence. So intelligence as well as life is needed to make a body. So I told the life in my liver that it was not torpid or inert, but full of vigor and energy. I told the life in my stomach that it was not weak or inefficient, but energetic, strong, and intelligent. I told the life in my abdomen that it was no longer infested with ignorant ideas of disease put there by myself and by doctors, but that it was all athrill with the sweet, pure, wholesome energy of God. I went to all the life centers of my body and spoke words of truth to them, words of strength and power. I asked their forgiveness for the foolish, ignorant course that I had pursued in the past when I condemned them and called them weak, inefficient, and diseased. Now, there's quite a bit more to that. I sort of selected a few pieces in there. But this was the founding truth of unity. This is what unity was founded on, was that teaching by Myrtle, or that discovery and understanding by Myrtle. And her husband, Charles, was not so online or on board with that. He was very skeptical. Kind of makes me feel like Doubting Thomas. Very skeptical of these things and not on board right away. So he needed some proof. And as time went on and Myrtle began to heal, and she does say that it took some time, right? It wasn't instant, that it took daily practice of doing this, of going through and asking forgiveness and speaking to her body and all the areas of her body and loving them and appreciating them. That it took this time, and she healed herself of tuberculosis. This is in the late 1800s, when doctors showed up with a black bag with some leeches and a saw. So many people in those times were looking for alternatives to heal. And as people saw what was going on with Myrtle, and Charles then began to adopt this thinking, and he began to heal a challenge with his leg, people began to come to them and go, "What are you doing? What is this thing that you're doing?" And they began to share, and that's how unity was born. It was never meant to be a church or this healing centers all over the world, or however you want to call it, the Daily Word. All of those things came after that initial, as Myrtle calls it, the initial discovery that she made, which was speaking life into her body, speaking truth into her body. So I ask, how many people here have heard the unity principle number 5, live the truth you know? Anybody? Yeah. Live the truth you know. And for me, I've struggled with that a bit at times, and maybe this is true for you, because my truth might not be your truth. And I made a recent discovery or an idea around what does that look like? What could that truth actually mean? And the reason I went down that road is because I thought, recently I went and saw Nuremberg with one of my daughters, the movie. And so I was thinking about Nazism and that idea that these people thought they were right in some demented, twisted way. And so I was thinking, that seemed to be their truth. So what's the difference? How can I understand this at a deeper level? And here's what I came up with. In association with research, these aren't my words, these are me looking at this and asking questions. Live the truth you know is measured by life itself. In unity, truth is not opinion, belief, or ideology. I'm going to say it again. In unity, truth is not belief, opinion, or ideology. Truth is measured in unity by whether life expands or contracts. The question becomes that we need to ask ourselves, does this thought, action, or belief restore flow, movement? Does it honor dignity? Does it increase love? Does it support and encourage life? And if the answer is no, anything that diminishes life, no matter how strongly it is believed, is out of alignment with truth. And so we need to understand what that truth is. And that truth is the nurturing of life, of love. We opened with the Christ light, the candle for life. That is truth. If we are not giving life and supporting life on this planet, in this time that we have here, what are we doing? And you can take that to yourself. What am I doing? Now, this occurred to me not in this context, because I didn't have an understanding for this yet. So you could say that it's taken me a while to get here. Anybody else? It's kind of taken me quite a while to get into this space. So I can go back to the beginning of the pandemic. And I found myself being quite opinionated and political on social media. And somebody questioned what I was doing, and actually referred to me as a dark person. And I had to come to terms with that. I certainly didn't feel that way. I didn't think of myself as a negative, dark person. I thought I was doing something that was adding voice to something in the world. But for them, their perception of that was not the same as my perception. And I had to take a step back. Let me rephrase that. I didn't have to take a step back. I chose to take a step back, because what I saw about myself was maybe that is correct. I don't like the sound of it very much. You don't want to hear that from somebody that you know very well who now thinks that you're maybe evil and dark. Especially when you're in school to be a minister, those two things are, not working on the same level. But it was from that lesson, from somebody else pointing that out, that I needed to look at something about myself, that I made a decision at that point in my life that I would no longer post or discuss anything that's political or ideological. If it's not about love and truth, I don't need to be involved in it. It's not my place. I don't stand up here on Sundays and preach any kind of politics. I don't like it. I don't think this is the place for it. I think what's supposed to be done up here is talking about love and life and appreciation and lifting one another up. And that voice, giving voice to that, is the way to change the world. One person, thank you, one soul at a time. Not by pointing out what's wrong, but celebrating what's right. I would much rather be celebrating every day, wouldn't you? Like, come on, what are we doing here? And it doesn't mean that I'm ignorant to the world, and it doesn't mean that if you're in that same space that you're ignorant to what's going on. It just means that you've made a choice to say, my voice over here is only going to feed that energy. Feed which monster are we going to feed, right? That kind of idea. Or which wolf are we going to feed, I think is that analogy I've heard before. Well, I don't want to feed that one. I want to feed this one. Because I want to be at a place of peace and love and joy in my life. And I would rather go down feeling peace and love than go down feeling hatred and anger and frustration. And so I look back on that time in 2020 as like, oh, what a gift. I didn't like it at the time. It was hurtful to me at that time. But as I stand here now and I think of what truth has now revealed itself to me as, living the truth I know is that goodness, that one source, one power, one divine energy that is God the good, as Unity would put it. And that commandment from John in today's daily word, love one another, right? As I have loved you, that feels way better to me, to be doing that. And to tell people, hey, we need to just love one another. We need to see the light in one another. And so how can we do that if we're not going to live that ourselves? There's no point in talking like that if you are not going to be a demonstration for that. And that's what this Sangha, congregation, is to me, is the opportunity to feed the world with love and light and truth. To take Myrtle's words and speak truth into ourselves and into one another. Not, how does she put it? Not speak torpid, petulant words of anger and disease. Like what? How's that helping? Truth is not something we defend, it is something we conduct. We don't need to defend it, we just need to live it. And when you live the truth, people show up that want to live the truth as well. You actually become an attraction for those kind of people. You end up moving in circles and having your life flow with those kind of people. Truth does not require force, argument, or justification. When truth is present, life moves freely. And I can think of that as aligning with the direction of life, which is, at this point in my life, I want to keep enjoying my life. I want to keep living. I want to keep having that energy within me. Well, how am I going to do that? You know, that's the sort of one of the first things that always comes up for me when I think of what I think is a great idea for my life. The next question is, okay, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to achieve that in my life? If that's important to me and I want to do that, how am I going to do that? What is it going to take for me to operate and live in that way? And you've all heard my push-up story. It's still going on. I want to do 40 push-ups when I'm 85. How am I going to do that? Just do them every day till I get there, and it'll be achieved. And that was my solution. So if I want to live a peaceful, loving life, then I need to practice that every day, don't I? It's on me. It's not on you people It's not up to you guys to make me feel good about my life. It's up to me to do that, just as I see it's up to you. And I'm quite happy and joyful to support you in any way I can to make that a possibility in your life. Just as I think each of you are in that same space. What I've seen in this community is nothing but love and light and support. Nothing but a desire to have that celebrated. And so as we think of Christmas, I was actually thinking about the metaphysics of the nativity scene and asking myself as I prepare to do a candle lighting service. I get the great privilege of going to Vancouver on Wednesday and doing the candle lighting service there, and then I'll be doing it here this coming Sunday. And so it's been on my mind, how am I going to deliver a message? What kind of message do I want to bring? And so, there's the metaphysical approach. So I can take a metaphysical interpretation of the birth of Christ story, or I could just talk about the 12 powers and the candle lighting around that. So there's a lot of different ways. And so I was thinking about the context of life and the nativity scene. And it dawned on me, and I'm a bit slow, so you have maybe already noticed this, but I noticed that one of the beauties of the nativity scene is all the different life that is surrounding the manger. There's sheep there. There's animals involved in it. There's people, there's kings, right? There's these riches that have come from miles to support it. There's the poor standing there. There's those that can't afford an inn, a room at the inn. Like all of this life is part of that scene. And so even though I struggle with my Catholic roots upbringing of the dogma, what I would call, and this is just me, but the dogma of religion, I can also see in that story that there's a whole different way to look at it. There's a whole different way to reflect on it and see it as, oh, that was a celebration of life. Wow, now I feel better about that. I can actually be with that in a different way. I was sharing with Leslie yesterday on our Advent call and the group that was with us that Leslie was on a call with a group of actors, was it? Yeah, a group of actors. And it was a very supportive call for actors. And I think it's an all-women's group, is that right? Yeah, so I happened to walk in the room, and for me, it's like, oh, perfect divine timing. I walk in the room to get something out of the closet, and the person leading the group says, and you've probably heard this analogy, that we are operating the movie of our life, right? Like what we're seeing is actually a life movie for ourselves, and we're the lead character of it. So we're the actor, the director of that movie, we're the writer of that movie. And so I'd heard that before, but this was what was really great, that I'd never heard before. And she said, we're also the DOP, the director of photography, and we get to choose the lens of how we see the movie. And I stopped in my tracks and put that in my quote section on my notes on my phone. I was just like, that is perfect. We get to choose that lens. And I worked in the film industry. I worked on set like probably 1,000 days at least, being right in with the filming of feature films and television. They put filters on lenses. They choose what they're going to see. They decide if they're going to focus in on something or do a wide establishing shot. Like all of that in my mind in that moment just opened up like, oh, wow, that is exactly how we get to see the world. So what lens am I going to see with? What filters am I going to put on or take off as I look at the world and at other people. And yeah, there's the writing of the script and how I show up, and all of that stuff is true, but really, isn't the perception so much of the story? Right? How we perceive things, how we see it, how we frame it. Like, there's another term, right? Framing the shot. You know, I always, on a side note, I always know when I'm at a good movie or, in my opinion, a bad movie. If I'm at a bad movie, I can imagine all the crew people that are just off lens, that you can't see, but they're all just standing around, drinking a coffee, right? If it's outside, some of them might be smoking while they're shooting. And when we're watching it on screen, we don't see any of that stuff. But there's like 100 people just off lens, waiting for the word cut. And then they come back in and do all the little work they do. And if they're going to reset, then it's reset the scene, and then everybody scatters, and then they shoot it all again. So I always know when it's a good movie, I'm not thinking about any of that stuff. I'm engaged in the characters and what's going on. And if it's a not so good movie, I'm thinking about, how did they shoot that? I kind of get lost in the details. So living the truth you know requires self-reflection, not self-judgment. Any guilty parties here of the self-judgment? Yeah. 2 hands up, thank you. Hey, can I get a witness? Boom, boom, yeah. This principle is not about correcting others. It invites honest self-inquiry. So the questions you can ask is, where have I held life back? Where have I withheld love? Where can I soften? Where can I bring a softness? And for me, that's a big one. You know, I still have on my whiteboard in my office the letter from Unity that invited me to walk the ministerial path. And it was the letter from the licensing and ordination team that said yes, and then it said, Thomas lives in his head. He needs to make that journey to his heart. And I'm so not there yet. Like, I try. I really do. But sometimes, right? And then you just react, and there isn't a softening there, and there isn't compassion there, and there's judgment. All those things. And I walk away from those situations, and it's like, I don't want to be that. So it's a work in progress. Just as I'm sure it is for some of you. I know some of you have nailed it, right? Got it all figured out. So truth lived gently restores flow more effectively than truth imposed forcefully. So we need to soften. We need to feel those moments. We need to ask ourselves, is this who I want to be in this moment? And sometimes we forget. Myrtle didn't argue for truth, she lived it. She aligned her thoughts, words, and attention with life itself. I just read it. It's exactly what she did. By speaking life, appreciation, and forgiveness into her body, she lived the truth she understood, and life responded. Do you get that? Life responded. It's listening. It's awake when we ask it to be. It flourishes as we direct it. And it contracts as we direct it. Right? We're also the directors of our life. Her healing demonstrates that truth becomes real when it's practiced, not just believed. I remember when I had the first inclination that I wanted to do something like this in my life. It was around about 2004. Somewhere between 2004 and 2006. So you can see it took quite a while for me to finally submit to this desire. But I watched the movie The Secret. Anybody? Yeah, saw The Secret? And I remember watching that thinking, I could do that, right? Like I could easily get up and speak about those things. But then I thought, yeah, but I have no basis of understanding for this. Like, it's not enough for me to just think I can do it and sit on a sofa. I actually have to do something and get the knowledge. I didn't want to go in front of people and talk about a way of living if I didn't have an understanding of it myself and if I wasn't living it. And so nothing happened for the longest time until I moved to Nanaimo with Leslie and the girls, walked into Unity in 2017, and it was like, boom. This is the platform. I don't like to think of it as like that, but if you think of it, this is the place that I can stand on and shift my life. I didn't know I would end up a few months later going to Patricia saying, hey, I think I want to be a minister. But I remember very clearly, I read those words, unity is an unfolding, expanding, attracting center of life and love, mighty to attract its good and radiate good to others. And then I saw Patricia and I was like, I want what she has. I want that feeling in my life. I want that energy. So I'll leave you with this before we have a meditation together. And you can offer this question to yourself. Is what I am thinking, saying, or doing right now expanding life? If it is, then I am living the truth I know. And if it's not, well, you get to choose. Maybe there's something different.